Hi guys, welcome to Zadar, Croatia. I got here earlier today around noon, but want to catch you up on the rest of my time by the parks because anyways, there's a lot to tell you. So one thing I found out that I forgot to mention is it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and for that reason no one's allowed to swim there. But it wasn't until 5 years ago and everyone could swim. Which brings me to another point. I'm planning on going to another national park tomorrow that's similar, where you are allowed to swim, so that should be cool. But anyways, so the rest of the park was cool. Afterwards, I went with the guy from the hostel, and it turns out like his brother called him, who's actually the one running the hostel, and was like, you need to close it down and go home basically, because the government can do like checks whenever, and if it's supposed to be closed and it's officially closed on the books, like you can't be there. So ended up staying the second night with him at his house like in the countryside, which has a wood burning stove, like really old school. It used to be his grandparents' home. So anyways, the place was warm because of like the wood burning stove, which I also used to cook on, which was really difficult. So dinner didn't come out quite as good as the night before, but it was interesting anyways to try figuring that out. There's only one temperature. So anyways, so the rest of the day was cool, and tried some Croatian wine too, which was good, white wine, and learned a few more things about Croatia and its history. So he showed me this place. It's this basically like cross point where in one direction you go to Zagreb, which is where I came from, the capital, then it's kind of like a T. In the other direction it goes to Zadar, where I am now, and then the third direction goes to Split, where I'm going next. And this is actually where the war started with Serbia. So right near there's a little tiny church. I think he said there were like 4 Croatians that died right there. So that was interesting to see. We also actually, like today in the morning, drove through where the minefields are, or were, they're still there, that I had mentioned before. So you can see it's just like a forest with a street going through it, but you can see there's signs there warning you like not to go in there. And another thing that I learned the other day I forgot to mention, but right now, you know, Croatia is not part of the Schengen zone, which is why I can stay here longer, so I'm taking my time and seeing and doing more. But he actually told me that probably in a couple of years it's actually going to be, and same with the surrounding countries. So I'm glad I'm visiting now, because that would be harder to squeeze in even more into 90 days. So I found out about that. He also showed me like his parents' old home, and said that during the war they literally like dropped a bomb. They were trying to drop a bomb like on the house, which is right next to the school. Luckily they were off, and it hit close by but not quite, and luckily his parents weren't home. But anyways, like just the damage from the explosion literally like cracked the house and stuff. So crazy to learn about all this stuff that literally hit so close to home as far as like his family goes, and just being like, well, he wasn't alive yet, but anyways, being like around these things that happened not so long ago. Interesting to learn about, sad and scary at the same time. He did mention though that now everything's better between Serbia and Croatia, so there's not that like tension anymore, which is good between the countries. And so I think that was everything from yesterday. Today, when he was going to work again, he dropped me off by the park because I was taking the bus from there to where I am now. And this was crazy. So anyways, we're driving down the street, and there's this bunny running in front of the car. So we're like, oh, like, you know, hoping he gets out of the way, keeps running in front of the car. And I think he mentioned something about like it being his dinner or whatever. And anyways, so I keep just hoping like the bunny's gonna move, and then eventually we like drive and it's in between the wheels, so I'm hoping we missed it. And then we go past and he looks back and ended up running it over, which I think was intentional. And then he literally goes back to get it, and he's like, that's my dinner. And I was like, what? So anyways, he wasn't joking, and so that was like crazy to me. Learned a new way to hunt. Had never seen that before, as far as like hitting something with your car for dinner, you're gonna eat for dinner. So that was pretty crazy and sad. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. But anyways, he was saying, you know, like if you live in the countryside, everyone knows how to do that. Like, not that they all run them over with their cars, but you know, if you get a wild animal, like skin it and clean it, all that stuff to eat it. So he's gonna make goulash with that bunny. Poor thing, but probably will taste good. Anyways, that was just like one of those random crazy things. So interesting to partake in. And today has been like an eventful day. I pretty much walked around the whole place, which is Old Town. Like every city has the Old Town, which is really the nice area you want to check out. So I've walked all over. I'm by the seaside now, which is really pretty. Farther down here, there's this thing called the sea organ, which is really cool. It's these steps that go into the ocean. It looks kind of like what I saw in Lisbon, but I don't know how it works, but it literally actually makes music. So I don't know how they did it, but there's like these holes in the sides of the steps, and so it's really cool. You hear the waves and this like organ music. Really neat. Then they also have this thing farther down called Greeting to the Sun, which looks like this huge solar powered thing on the ground. I don't know like everything about it, but I think it does have to do with solar energy. So that was interesting. Saw a market, although there wasn't much going on there. And went to a couple parks which were nice, which I read they used to be fortresses and they turned them into these pretty parks. So that was cool. And and they also used to be, maybe still, connected by tunnels. And so, you know, if the war was happening or broke out, they would basically like go under there to hide and to be safe. That was interesting. There's also this old arch that was built by a Venetian architect, so a lot of Venetian influence here. And I also went into this like old church that was turned into a gallery. That was really cool. And walked around just like all over. Really pretty place. Trying to think of what other things I saw. Of course, like famous cathedral, there's always those, and museums and stuff like that. But let me show you a little bit of the sights before I go. So in about another half hour or so, it's sunset. And until then, enjoying the views by the beach. And over there's like a blow-up playground. So I think that's pretty much it for today. Interesting to learn also here like about they had World War II bombings and how they've redone everything and basically made this whole area like really nice, but there was a lot of destruction before. So I will catch you guys up tomorrow, probably on everything that happens from the park. Talk to you then. Bye.